Hello, everyone. This is Brooks Lang, and I'm currently a sophomore at Mesa Community College. And today I will be talking about the Industrial Revolution and the impact it had on many of the people's lives. And for this specific topic, I will be looking into an immigrant family named the Kovals, and I will be going into detail about their lives and the daily hardships they face throughout this time. Um, Thank you so much. I hope you learned something new today. Thanks. Welcome to Flash of the Past, where history joins with firsthand experiences. Today, we're stepping into a heart of the Industrial Revolution through the story of a fictional family, the Covels, immigrants who came to the United States in the late 19th century in search of opportunity, only to discover a world shaped by iron, steam, and enormous class divides. The Industrial Revolution changed everything: how people worked, lived, and related to each other. But not everyone experienced this change in the same way. For some, it brought immense wealth and opportunities, but for others, it meant struggle, exploitation, and sacrifice. Our story follows the Koval family, four members, four different paths in the industrial age. So meet the Kovals. There's Anna, the mother, age 23, who works in a canning factory in Maryland. Then Lucas, the father, who's 41, and he's employed by the Pullman Company in Chicago. Then you have Emil, 17, who dreams of moving up and reads Andrew Carnegie's writings. Then you have the daughter, Mira, who's 12, and she works long hours in the factory to help support her family with her mother. Let's first begin with Anna. Anna's days are long and physically exhausting. She wakes up before sunrise and returns home after dark. The child labor in the canning industry of Maryland report gives us a glimpse into this life. There's long hours, poor ventilation, and minimal pay. Her hands are raw from handling sharp tin and scalding water. Her supervisors demand speed over safety for her, and breaks and time off is rare. Anna worries constantly about Mira, who also works beside her. In truth, they have little choice. Their family needs every penny. Mira, at just 12, is already part of the working class. She represents the thousands of children forced into labor during this period. Her stories echoed in the Maryland Canneries letter from the National Child Labor Committee, which documented these unsafe, inhumane conditions. Mira doesn't go to school because education is a luxury for the Kovals and they cannot afford that. She often dreams of being a teacher, but even her breaks are filled with tasks like peeling tomatoes or boxing cans. Her small hands make faster work than some adults, and is something her supervisor notices and exploits from her. Meanwhile, Lucas, the father, works for the Pullman Company, maintaining luxury rail cars. At first, the job seems stable, but in reality, it's very harsh. During the 1894 Pullman strike, documented in the Report on Chicago Strike, Lucas finds himself caught between loyalty to his employer and his fellow workers. When George Pullman cut wages without lowering rents in company owned housing, the workers protested. The strike turned very violent, and federal troops were sent in. Lucas lost weeks of pay and watched co workers arrested. It was a moment that changed his life and his view of the American dream. This wasn't the only instance where workers rebelled. It was very common for factory owners to cut wages, and it always negatively impacted thousands of families. Emil, the oldest child, is a dreamer. He reads the autobiography of Andrew Carnegie, fascinated by Carnegie's journey from poverty to immense wealth. Emil sees industry as a ladder. If you work hard enough, you can rise. He starts working part time at a printing press and begins saving for night school. But even Emil starts to feel conflicted when he reads The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. The Jungle exposes the exploitation behind the industrial success in industry. He learns how families like his are the backbone of Carnegie's empire. Emil starts asking, is it right that so many suffer while few thrive in this immense wealth? Does it make sense for these immigrants to get exploited while others make very huge profits? I'm not sure. The Covels are fictional, but their story reflects the reality faced by many families during the Industrial Revolution. Life was dramatically different depending on your class. Factory owners like Carnegie gained wealth and power. Middle class families saw modest improvements, but for immigrants and the working poor, the revolution often meant dangerous jobs, long hours, and constant uncertainty on what you're doing next to gain money. For families like the Kovals, living conditions were as harsh as the workplace they endured. Their tenant apartments were cramped, often shared with another family to afford the rent. There was little ventilation in the rooms, and the air was thick with soot from the nearby factories. Entire neighborhoods smelled of coal, smoke, and just plain trash and waste. Bathrooms were shared among dozens, and running water was very unreliable at best. The disease spread quickly in such overcrowded and unsanitary environments. Tuberculosis, cholera, and typhoid were constant threats to them. The walls of the apartments were thin, offering zero privacy, and rats and roaches were frequent visitors of their residences. Noise from factories carried into the night, making restful sleep rare. For working mothers like Anna, there was no escape. The home, just like the factory, offered little comfort or safety. These living conditions reinforced the cycle of poverty they were living in, affecting both health and morale, making survival their daily goal. To understand what life would have been like for each member of the Koval family, we can look deeper into past recollections on how life was for these people. Alfred D. Chandler's The Visible Hand explains how emerging corporate management reshaped American labor, placing workers like Lucas under top-down control with little say in their work conditions. These systems created more structure for business efficiency, but dehumanized labor, stripping Lucas of autonomy and placing him within a rigid corporate machine that is very difficult to escape. Jeffrey Williamson's Unequal Gains, American Growth and Inequality Since 1700 reveals how, even as the economy grew, the wealth gap widened. This helps us understand how Mira and Anna faced worsening living conditions despite working longer, harder hours. It also explains Emil's growing skepticism towards the capitalist system that, while promising mobility, rarely delivered it to the working class family just like his. Richard Bensel's The Political Economy of American Industrialization, 1877 through 1900, dives into the political environment that allows for industrial monopolies and weak labor protections. These policies kept families like the Kovals vulnerable. Lucas's struggle during the Pullman strike is a direct result of pro-business political structure that prioritized profit over the people. Herbert Gutman's Work, Culture, and Society Industrializing America gives insight into how immigrant workers maintained cultural ties and community solidarity. This helps explain how Anna, despite exploitation, found strength and identity in the bonds with other immigrant women, organizing for better conditions and sharing knowledge across language barriers. The factory rules from the Lowell Mills document offers a direct look into the regulation and expectation for mill workers, especially women and young girls. These rules shape daily lives, imposing strict schedules and moral codes for them. For Mira, similar rules governed her factory job, where punctuality and obedience were the most important thing about the job. The rules also highlight the moral paternalism of factory owners who believed discipline equaled productivity. And while the Kovals struggled, others profited enormously. Industrialists and wealthy entrepreneurs, just like Carnegie, lived in mansions, employed domestic staff, and had access to education, art, and different sorts of other kinds of leisure. They benefited from the labor of thousands, often seeing themselves as a self-made while ignoring the structural advantages they held within these people. These individuals were largely shielded from the dangers of the industrial work. Many of the women spent their days in leisure, education, or charity work. They hosted social events in lavish parlors, wore fine clothing, and read the latest literature. Their role in society, though constrained by gender norms, was cushioned by the class privilege. For instance, while Mira's fingertips bled from canning work, the daughters of industrialists studied piano or traveled with their chaperones. The harsh moral codes and disciplinary rules seen in the factory rules of Lowell Mills 1830s to 1840s applied only to poor working girls, not the elite. This contrast exposes the deep class divisions not just between men but among women, where one group's comfort was built upon another's suffering. Privileges they enjoyed undermined the divide in how the Industrial Revolution was experienced for everyone. Their children attended school and inherited businesses, which ensured that wealth and class advantage extended for many years to come. These lives were not shaped by the sounds of the machines, but by the profits they produced in these factories. These sources collectively deepen the understanding of how important this historical moment played in each different life and family for everyone. They also clarify the systems behind the inequality and resilience. Political restrictions, economic stratifications, and cultural resistance are not just backdrops, but forces shaping every Koval's worldview and life choices. But the Kovals, like many, found small victories, community resilience, and the belief that their children might have it better. Despite inequality, there was also hope for them. Lucas eventually joins a labor union. Mira learns to read with Emil's help, and Anna, after years in the cannery, begins organizing with other women to demand safer working conditions. The Industrial Revolution was a time of progress, but it came at a cost for many people. Thank you for joining us on The Flash of the Past. The story of the Kovals reminds us that history isn't just about machines and inventions, it's about the people behind them. People who worked, struggled, and shaped the world we live in today. Thanks again, everyone. I really enjoyed this podcast and learning more about the Industrial Revolution. I think this is a part of history that we will obviously never forget, and it's really important to see how all these advancements were really made, even though it required the exploitation of some people. It's very important, and we should learn about this in detail. And whenever we hear about the Industrial Revolution, just know that, yes, we benefited greatly from all these inventions and machines, but the people are really the ones that shaped the whole change, and without the people, America would not be what it is today. Thanks again.